What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka-laka-laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 165 of Caught in Conversation, you bloody ripper. As always, I am your host, the Essential John L. Crossfire, and the title of today's episode is kind of obvious. One, Sarge / Ethan Hughz, one of his nicknames is The Ripper, and of course, you bloody ripper is just a classic Australian saying, and, Sarge is a very classic Australian man, if I don't say so myself. This conversation you're about to hear, though, it's actually going to start like midway through a sentence because, as always, I hit record kind of just as I'm about to start the interview just to make sure it's all doing good. But myself and Sarge, Ethan Hughz, were talking a bit about men's mental health or just mental health in general. And he used a very good analogy about a champagne bottle that was just too good to leave out. And of course, we've talked many, many, many times here on Caught in Conversation that it, of course, is okay to not be okay. It sounds cliche, but it's honestly, it's just a fact. It's a fact. Sometimes you need to cry, and that's okay. Like, sometimes shit hits a fan, and it is what it is. Sarge says it much better with his little champagne bottle analogy. What are words? Buy the t-shirt. We're right into the intro, and I can't even fucking talk right now. But this conversation actually, 9 times in this conversation, the recording dipped a little bit. So there's a few little bits here where, unfortunately, you'll miss a sentence or two. Luckily, you don't miss much important information, and it mainly happened towards the back end of the conversation. Especially, there was a bit where Ethan Hughz was saying some very nice things about Bronson King, aka the captain, and a nice bit of that got cut out. And I don't know how or why this has happened. In 165 episodes, I've never had this issue where it stopped recording other than a solo episode. But obviously, being a solo episode, I was able to go back in and re-record and that. But in the middle of a conversation, I've never had this happen. So I just want to say, first and foremost, to you guys, the listeners, I apologize. But second of all, to Sarge, because I had a very great conversation with Sarge. We talked for just over an hour. Pretty much the entire conversation we had, you guys will hear, because we jumped pretty well straight into the official conversation. But yeah, just the little bits and pieces here and there. I did listen back to the whole thing, and I hate the sound of my own voice, which is fucking redundant because I run this podcast, but I've said that to you guys many times. As much as I hate the sound of my own voice, I went back, I re-listened to this, and I really enjoyed it, and I don't think it does take away from it, but just keep in mind there will be a few bits here and there that just, for whatever reason, just didn't record. It just kind of, yeah, there's a handful of times where it's going to come back mid-sentence, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? But I think we did a pretty good job of covering the bases, and you should still very much be able to, follow along with 99.99999% of it. So yeah, just sorry to you guys, the listeners, but of course, sorry to Sarge, who, took the time out of his night to talk to me and come on this show. And technology is not my friend. I keep joking with my friend DPC, that hosts What If It's Cool, that eventually I'm going to just make a technology is not my friend t-shirt for the podcast. But yeah, just shit happens. I don't know why or how or yeah, but it's a thing. It happened. But the song and match of the week. The song of the week is Jack the Ripper by LL Cool J. I think you can kind of get, the reference there that I'm making. And obviously, as you'll get to this conversation, as you look at the title of the episode, it's pretty self-explanatory, but Jack the Ripper by LL Cool J is the song of the week. The match of the week this week is Hacksaw Jim Duggan Ho versus Andre the Giant on June 4th, 1988 at a WWF house show at the Boston Gardens. It was later released publicly via Coliseum home video, and yes, at that point it was literal VHS tapes that it was released on, ladies and gentlemen. But there is a great 15-minute match on the official WWE YouTube channel, talking way too fast as always, that breaks down this entire kind of feud, so to speak. You know, it sets up, you know, what happens, and then it goes into the full match itself, all in the same video. It's a good little video, nice little, you know, visit of history. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, of course, has been mentioned many of times here on Court and Conversation, sometimes in jest, but it's always with love. But just many times people looking back at their fond memories of professional wrestling, and Hacksaw was kind of just an everyman, and obviously every man, and woman too for that matter, can relate to that. So yeah, that's why this has been chosen. Jim Duggan versus Andre the Giant from June 4th, 1988. But yeah, it's so simple. It's nothing extravagant, but they tell a great story and they get such a great crowd reaction. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important, right? Like, you can't shrug your shoulders at that. You can't roll your eyes at that. You know, not crowd reaction per se, because they might pop in a move and forget about it. But crowd engagement, crowd emotions. I don't know. I had a word and I lost it, but this is all one take because it's Court and Conversation and it's fucking chaos. And this interview, unfortunately, hopefully it doesn't take away from Sarge being on the show, but this interview is complete proof of that this show is just chaotic, and I try my best to run a professional ship, but shit, maybe that's just not me. That's just not who I am, unfortunately. But what I'm going to do is, we're not going to fiddle fart fuck around. I'm going to press the button, as you all know, and then since Nova Lee's not here, I'm going to do my shitty attempt at being a ring announcer. And you know what? I might even try and do some some old school think in the spirit of Sarge being a fan of the classic stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the button. Ladies and gentlemen, making his Court in Conversation debut, some of you know him as Sarge, but he is the Ripper, Ethan Hughz. But no, I myself, like, you know, I've been better, but just trying to, you know, take it each day as it is and trying to focus on this shit and other shit and just, you know, in for a good yarn, basically.
Yeah, mate, that's it, mate. You know what? Sometimes it's all you need to pull yourself out of a bit of rut. Just have a good chat.
So, and we'll get into it when we start recording properly. But like, I that's what I miss, like seeing you boys on the Thursday night, because like that was we literally made that like our fucking Thursday night ritual. We'd literally throw you guys on while we were like watching the footy and shit, like, and just chill and fucking vibe.
100%. Mate, I'll tell you what, like I miss it as well. To be honest, like just sitting around, just as you said, it's just sitting around catching up with the boys once a week, having a bit of fun, talking a bit of shit, and just like, yeah, just having fun.
It's fucking, it's needed.
Mate, you know, especially in men's mental health, we don't talk enough. So
yeah, well, I actually had like I don't want to say a breakdown, but I had a moment literally on air last week, and like it was pre-recorded, and that's why I put that video out, because I was like, I don't know if I should put this out or not, and I ended up just leaving it in there. And I've actually had a few people like message me since and basically say thank you, so I'm like, oh fuck, I'm glad to see that, you know, me shedding a tear helped you in a weird way.
Well, you know what, the amazing thing is in 2025, like we're in a different world. When if you go back 20 years, you would have been called a pussy and all that sort of stuff, letting your emotions out. Now, it's I don't want to say it's kind of expected for people to kind of be a little bit more emotion-based. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not something we bring out a lot as men, but it's something we should be expressing a lot more. Like, it's years of shaking the champagne bottle, waiting for it to pop, and mate, last thing you want, you never know when that bottle's going to pop. So absolutely. Just got to make sure you let your emotions out occasionally and just go for it.
You know, I think that's a good point to jump in. Like, I might even leave some of that fucking in and just do a preface in the in the intro and say that, hey, this starts with us getting really fucking deep. But I'm here with Ethan Hughz. We've been chatting for a few minutes now off air. We were talking about Nova, which I'll leave out of it just because, you know, that's her personal business at the moment, but she is doing well for those that are wondering. There we go. I don't have to worry about doing that in the intro now. But Sarge, I don't know if you've listened to this show or not, but as we were just talking about just before we jumped into this, I used to listen to you guys all the time on True Story Thursdays, and that was how I kind of came to find you, because I've been around Australian wrestling since about 2013, 2014, but I'm still learning quite a lot about the different scenes and, you know, promotions and stuff like that. So I didn't actually know who Ethan Hughz was until I watched the Piers Austin show, and then all of a sudden you were just popping up everywhere in New South Wales after that. It was like some sort of like weird domino effect. But we always ask the very same question for first-time guests here on the pod. It's a bit of a generic question, but I think it's a nice little icebreaker, and that is, what was Ethan Hughz's earliest professional wrestling memory?
So, first thing I remember and I don't know how old I was just a young whippersnapper, but I remember seeing a match that was Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. And I think the only reason it stood in my mind is because we had both of those tools in the garage and I could relate to them. And those two names have just been in my head for the past 30-something years. So, yeah, that's probably the first wrestling match I remember. I don't remember like the details of it. I remember that was the match. I remember watching like some wrestling on the telly. It must have been late 80s, early 90s. And I've kind of just followed through with it ever since. So I was born in 86, so I'm guessing I'm remembering things that kind of popped up in like 89, 90, 91. And I've just been hooked on pro wrestling ever since.
Those are some two names to come across there. Like I know a lot of people talk about the Attitude Era and like the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like my personal favorite era is actually that 80s era with the Hacksaws and the Hammers and the Macho Mans and all that. Mainly because that's the stuff that I used to watch with my dad as a kid, because he used to be like, oh, fucking, like this John Cena cunt's got nothing on Hulk Hogan. And then all of a sudden I was exposed to, you know, Macho Man and Roddy Piper and like just all these names. But they're two great names, and even now fondly remembered. But at what point, so as you said, that would have been late 80s, early 90s, at what point did you discover that there was wrestling outside of that?
Oh, what do you mean locally?
In terms of, so I'm assuming this would have been like WWF stuff that you were watching, or late NWA stuff.
I'm guessing there was even a bit of like whatever Australian wrestling was on back then as well. The old, I think it might have been WCW, like Australia back in whatever it was called. And then I remember seeing some WWF stuff when I was a kid as well. I remember going to Blockbuster and we hired the first pay-per-view we actually hired on VHS at Blockbuster was SummerSlam 1993, Undertaker versus Undertaker. And that also had the cage match with Brett versus Owen. That was a top pay-per-view from top to bottom. Or I don't think they were pay-per-views then. They were just Coliseum home video releases. But they put on some top shows. And like you look at the quality of wrestling back then and you compare it to now, and it's so much simpler. Like you got to do so much less to get so much more.
And I hate to think how many times I've watched that cage match, though. The one you just mentioned, I've watched that so many times.
Yeah, and it's like it just gets me. Like that cage match was so simple, and look, I love the old blue cage. I think that's. I
was hoping they were going to bring that back actually for Saturday night's main event, because like they got like the classic refs like shirts, and they got the red, white, and blue. Like obviously the last one, Cody brought back the Wind Eagle, and there was part of me that I'm like, well, you got Ventura on commentary. I'm like, surely blue bar steel cage for McIntyre and Priest, but didn't quite get my wish. It is what it is.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that would suck to go face first into actual
cold hard steel, brother.
But yeah, that's like I much prefer watching those cage matches. They just, for me, they look a lot more menacing and more cage like than what they do in the modern era. But I suppose even when you look back at it, like in the NWA and all that with the Horseman versus Dusty. They still had that modern style looking cage. They had the mesh fence with which looked like storm fences and stuff like that, and it still got a great reaction. Don't get me wrong. I think the old blue cage was my favourite.
But even then, though, the old NWA cage, there's something about looking at it, and the fence just looks a bit more grittier than it does now. And I guess it's probably more of a safety reason, which sounds fucking redundant when you're putting two athletes or more inside a steel and saying, hey, go your hardest. But, there's something about the NWA ones that look grittier than the current ones that they use on WWE and AEW and wherever else.
Yeah. And I think with those cage matches as well, it's very much like the cage match then wasn't designed to, don't get me wrong, it always got used as a weapon at some point. But the cage match was designed to keep both competitors in the ring and keep everyone else's as weapons as well. But the prime reason for it was to make sure you didn't escape and no one else got in the ring. And it just suited perfectly.
110%. But at what point from then, Sarge, did you then discover that whether it's territories or local stuff, when did you discover wrestling out of that? Or outside of that, I should say.
Oh, well, I remember picking up a few DVDs and VHSs in the later 90s. I remember coming across an old UWF show. Somehow I found that DVD or VHS in somewhere, and we bought that. And watching some of that, with Terry Gordy running around as champ, the Cheetah Kid who ended up becoming Flyboy Rocco Rock, Cactus Jack, and just seeing some of that stuff, which you knew different faces and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't that polished WWF product at the time. And then at one point, all the ECW, not all, I think there were about 6 ECW DVDs got released in Australia. And watching those and seeing a completely different product to the polished WWF stuff we'd seen in the past was just insane. I remember, what was it? I think it was in Beyond the Mat, where they're interviewing Paul Heyman, and he was saying ECW's way of doing things was accentuating the positives and hiding the negatives. And don't get me wrong, when you watched it, you noticed it wasn't the most polished of products, but it just had that different element. The crowd had a different vibe to what a standard WWF crowd had, and it was just completely different to see. And not in a bad way, but it was just a completely different view to what we'd seen or what I'd seen anything up to that point as well.
Without going on a rant, though, even looking just at the characters, if you look at a guy like Taz, that's a great example of Heyman accentuating the strengths, hiding the weaknesses. Because if you watch Taz in ECW, you wouldn't realise that he's 5 foot nothing. You'd think that he's fucking 7 foot tall, bulletproof with the way that he was presented, and even now, that stuff still holds up. But no, that's a really great example. So this will fast forward.
Yeah,
sorry, continue.
Take this as an example as well. You look at Jeff Hardy in WWE, right? And he wasn't a big guy. He looked like one of the smaller guys on the show and all that sort of stuff. You bring him into a TNA ring, and he was head and shoulders above everybody else, height-wise and size-wise. It just shows the different product compared against different things. In ECW, everyone looked at similar height. They were all smaller. They were your 5'5" to say 6'1", 6'2" sort of thing, where Mike Awesome was the exception and a lot bigger. And where you're looking at the WWE at that same point, where the shortest you were was 6 foot. You had your occasional guy that was smaller than that, but anyone that was making money was 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". And it just shows that how different the products were. Yeah, well, I remember what you could make with it.
Even for example, my all-time favourite wrestler is Eddie Guerrero, and people that listen to the show regularly are probably sick of fucking hearing me say that. But him and Benoit and Malenko and all those guys between 5'7", 5'8", and they were basically damn near considered fucking midgets at that point. So absolutely to that point. But from what point, Sarge, did you then fast forward into the local Australian scene. And at what point did you then decide that you actually wanted to pursue being a professional wrestler? And was there a specific moment or anything like that that prompted you to take that step? Or just walk us through that.
So I had no idea Aussie wrestling was a thing here until I think it was 2000, I think, off the top of my head. And my mum won tickets to an AWF show, Concord RSL. Main event that night was TNT versus Scarecrow. This was before the UWA split from it as well. And that's what, yeah, from there, like, that's where I saw the likes of your TNT, your Scarecrow, El Cognito, Dementor, Mad Tony Kebab, the Hanson Brothers, JT Robinson, and you had that crew, and it was just seeing that up live and just seeing, like, because we were sitting front row, and it was just like, wow, this is happening like in front of me, and it was amazing to see. And then what happened after that? Like, so I started going to a few AWF shows, and it caught my interest. And then it was in 2000 and I think it was 2002. You had Andy Raymond put on the first Australian Super Show that was held at the Sydney Entertainment Centre, and I'm pretty certain you could say that was the first time that everyone collaborated to put a show together. So at that point, you had I don't think there were any guys from Queensland that came down for it, but you had IWA guys. Your main event that night was Mark Mercedes versus Jason Hilton.
Okay,
for the IWA heavyweight title. Then you also had the UWA crew in there. AWF was part of it. PCW in Melbourne was part of it. Out of Adelaide, they had the I think it was JPW, Joy Promotions, back then, with Jag and Havoc coming up and doing a tag, which led into like a singles match from those guys. Yeah, and it was different seeing a lot of guys. And that's what kind of snapped me into things with how there was an actual Australian wrestling scene, and at that point I thought, wow, there's so many places you could wrestle. I thought you could make a full-time living on it, little did I know. But yeah, as I said, you had Mark Mercedes versus Jason Hilton that night. Who else was in it? You had Dean Draven and Angus McLeod wrestling each other, which was just watching two completely different styles of guys who'd probably never really met each other. They had the great Aussie pub brawl with, which practically had everybody from that time. That's
holy crap.
Yeah, and then you had a young Rob Matrix versus Billy Cole, which was a phenomenal match in that as well. And yeah, that kind of just hooked me. And then I just started looking into more stuff, and I found IWA, and I started going to a couple of those shows. I think the one I remember mostly was in 2004, where it was a rock and roll wrestling night where it was half the show was IWA wrestling and the other half was Kisteria, who's probably the top, or at that point was the top Kiss tribute band in Australia.
They probably are, in all honesty.
Probably still are, yeah. And just seeing something like that night was just insane. Seeing the likes of Brett Brady, Tyson Gibbs, Rob Matrix, Mark Mercedes, Casey Jackson was on it. And yeah, it was just seeing those guys plus seeing like rock and roll music, and you think this should be part of everything. Having rock and roll and pro wrestling, because they just go hand in hand together. And so then it got to 2005, and let's stay in. Let's go back to 2003. The second Australian Super Show happened, and that didn't get broadcasted on TV, because the first Super Show was broadcast on Fox 2. So I just kept an eye out on Andy Raymond's website, and the second one came out, but it was only done live. Wasn't released on TV, but the DVD came out from it. And then watching that show and just seeing a whole new set of characters start. Whole heap of new faces. And that kind of got my mindset of, look, I'm going to keep an eye on IWA. That's where I kind of want to train. Like, I looked at some of those guys, they were phenomenal. And so I got to 2005 and I kind of said, I'm going to start with IWA. So I signed up to the wrestling school, based out of Dulwich Hill at Fighting Father Dave's hall. It was run by Rob Matrix, who was just great to me from day one, and I'm still blessed to call him one of my best mates in wrestling. And
of course, probably now Robbie Zucco, for people that aren't aware.
Robbie Zucco, sorry, and just stuck with it, and then had a great run with that. We've done a lot of Ks over the years. I've made some great mates through this entire run. Like in that first, and it's amazing because you look at I was a dumb 18-year-old kid at that point, and when you look at the crew from the first tour I went on with IWA was the Wild West. So we'd do Dubbo on a Saturday and Orange on Sunday for a matinee, and the guys you'd be as an 18-year-old, you're thrown in the deep end, hanging out with guys who are mid to late 20s up until like your 40s. So you're not hanging around with boys at this point. You're hanging out with men and having to readjust. And you start picking up some of the habits of these older guys as well, and the drinking habits and all that sort of stuff. And it was a lot of fun.
So from what point then did the name Sarge come from? Because you notice Sarge to some people, Ethan Hughz to others, and then you've got a few other nicknames as well. So where'd the name Sarge originate from?
Well, it was my nickname at school.
Okay.
So it just stuck with it, and I stuck with it, and put a bit of a character together that went along with it. It started off extremely ugly looking, and then it got a little bit less ugly, then got a lot more polished over a couple of years, and that was a lot of help from the boys. From Tyson Gibbs helped me out a lot with that one. With Rob helped me a lot with that one as well. And just cleaning the character up, cleaning up the move set as well, working on my in-ring. And that led to when IWA did their TV tapings for Aurora, and did 3 seasons of that, which was a lot of fun as well. So that's where Sarge started, and then Ethan Hughz came along. It was on a North Coast run. I got sick of wrestling under a mask, and I thought, let me do something different. So I did something different, and it kind of stuck a little bit more, and I kind of just got out of being Sarge and just kept on being Ethan Hughz.
See, I love that, because when I first became John Crossfire, it was originally meant to just be Crossfire under a mask. It was literally just a balaclava. I shit you not, it was just a generic one-size-fits-all adult balaclava. Literally, all that happened was I got a haircut, and all of a sudden the mask was too big and kept slipping down. So literally the night of my debut on the fly, it was called of, hey, you're no longer wearing this mask. So...
Oh mate, the funny thing is, so when I started wrestling as Sarge, I got a high spot that was a commercial mask, superstar style mask. And if you see younger photos of me, I had this massive bush of hair on top of me, and it was gross. It was honestly horrible. I've always wanted rock star hair. And I kept getting told, it's going to drop, but it just kept getting curlier and curlier and just getting higher and higher. So at one point I had to wear a bandana under my mask to keep my hair out of my face.
Dude, that would have been hot as hell.
And then as soon as I cut my hair, the first match someone grabbed the mask and it came straight off my face during a match.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's proof. A lot of people haven't believed me when I said that all I did was get a haircut and made the mask fit differently. So there you go.
100%.
Ethan Hughz got a haircut and made the mask fall off.
That's it. That's it. And that had to it was just after my 1 year anniversary, and it was a Burwood RSL. I was wrestling Birdman for the IWA Trans Tasman title, and my big moment for me winning the belt. And Birdman grabs my mask to pick me up, and it yanks it straight off. And I'm there. I've turned my head and I saw my face on the big screen, and I look like a deer stuck in headlights. I'm looking around going, "Oh shit." And all I could hear from backstage Mercedes screaming, he said, get down, cover your face. I'm like, and then you get
That's the last person you want shouting at you too.
Oh mate, then you get Ty Townsend on the on commentary going, look, it's just it's an ugly fat kid under a mask. I'm like, thanks Uncle Ty, appreciate that one, mate.
Oh my god! So now something you go, I almost guess a moniker would be the best word to use, because I don't want to say character because you are a genuine heavyweight, but something you've been calling yourself is the last breed of heavyweights in wrestling. What exactly
100%.
do you mean by that?
So my mind with that was, when you look at heavyweight wrestling these days, there aren't a lot of heavyweights that do the traditional heavyweight style. A lot of people say it's boring and slow and lazy, but I don't see it that way personally. I think it's a real art to be a true heavyweight, to go out there and be hard hitting, to make your moves look as big and heavy as possible, and get reactions for doing small things. And a lot of guys these days who are in that heavyweight division, they want to go out and still do a million and a half different things. And like, personally, look, that's not my style of wrestling. And pulling the curtain back, I don't have the memory for some of that stuff either. So yeah, it was just being that last of the old school heavyweight sort of style. Like I base a lot of things, what I do, on like Arn Anderson, on Sergeant Slaughter, on those true heavyweights from back in the day. And yeah, that's what I meant by the last of the old school heavyweights.
So
yeah, no one's doing that stuff anymore.
Before I get to the next question, just as a fan, do you prefer watching the heavyweight style of wrestling or the high flying style of wrestling?
I prefer heavyweights in everything. Like, for me, like, there is nothing better in this world than watching two heavyweight boxers go into the middle of the ring and beat the shit out of each other. Like, and when I was a kid, everyone knew who the heavyweight wrestling champion was, whether it was Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, whoever, Macho Savage. Everyone knew who the heavyweight wrestling champion was, and everyone knew who the world heavyweight boxing champion was as well, whether it was Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. Everyone knew who they were. And for me, it's kind of, that's what I love. I love watching traditional heavyweights in wrestling, in boxing, even in UFC to an extent. I know it's not the most exciting stuff to watch, but when I watch two heavyweight UFC guys, you never know when it's going to finish, because all it takes is that one punch or that one strike out of nowhere. Like, they're not looking to get the tap out. They're not looking to end it like that. They're looking to win. So yeah, that's what I prefer.
See, I'm kind of with you there, because like in wrestling, I guess it kind of depends on what I'm mood in. But when it comes to like UFC and like stuff like that, I 100% I agree with that. Like, there's something about just two beefy boys. Like, it's become almost a catchphrase nowadays in wrestling. But like the whole big meaty men slapping meat thing, like just
100%.
two big beefy boys just swinging for the absolute fucking fences. Like, there's nothing like it, honestly.
100%. And look, that's what I enjoy watching. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but like, and I think with especially with wrestling, and you get two heavyweights going out, they can tell such a good story. Like, even something as simple as trying to get that body slam, and like I still use that in today's world, and it still works. Like, when the babyface finally gets that body slam on me, whether it's a smaller guy or whoever it is, like the crowd reacts to it because we've built up to this one bump, and they've finally hit it, and it's like, all right, well, you get that super close 3 count just off taking one body slam.
Without pulling the business back too much on this podcast, very recently there was a match in Slam between Slex and Tommy Knight, and literally the finish to that match was Slex finally hits that big scoop slam, hit the 1, 2, 3, and there was so many people that kind of shat on that a little bit, and I was like, the story those two guys told of Slex using his speed and agility to get Tommy off base to begin with, but then coming up with the big power and boom, up and down, 1, 2, 3. I enjoyed every second of that personally.
Oh, that's amazing. I really wish I kind of saw that match now.
It's kind of like MJF winning with the headlock takeover. Sometimes things can work.
No, that's it. We're not going to talk about everything that led up to the simple headlock takeover, but that's exactly
but you get the point,
exactly
though.
Right.
It's the whole story of, I'm going to beat you with insert move here. Just a big old fucking...
100%.
I remember even just last week's episode, for example, I was interviewing a friend of mine by the name of Wolfman, and he was talking about his all-time favorite match is Undertaker versus Orton at WrestleMania 21. Mm-hmm. There is a spot, I don't know if it's that match specifically, but it's one of the matches that they had in that feud. Orton just does right as I'm saying stuff, Orton just does a basic scoop slam on Taker. And Michael Cole and Taz are like, my God, the power of this young man, because Taker's fucking 6'10" or whatever the hell he is. Just it's the simple stuff. It's big meaty men slapping meat. That's
it. And you know what? You take it to anything. If you can make a body slam something massive. Look, let's hear the prime example. You look at Mark Henry's finish, the world's strongest slam, right? It's not like it's anything special, but it's what you've done to build that as a finish, how people have sold it as a finish, and protecting that move as your finish. And anything can be a finish when you think about it. You look at even Miles Bourne in NXT at the moment. He's getting a drop kick over.
A fucking beautiful dropkick too.
Beautiful dropkick. And he's getting that over as a finish, and it just shows you can get anything over as a finish as long as you build it. You make people believe that, all right, this one dropkick is the most accurate, perfect dropkick in the business. It hits you right on the button every single time. Why not? Why not? Shawn Michaels made a super kick work for so long, and you look at guys now, and
we all know where that is.
It's in the top 5 most bastardized moves in pro wrestling now.
I mean, we could go on a rant about super kicks and DDTs and neck breakers and fucking Lord knows Canadian destroyers, but no, 110%, dude.
It's what you do to make something look amazing, and mate, if you can make something look good, why can't it be a finish?
Absolutely. See, my first finisher in wrestling was literally just the discus clothesline. I have broad shoulders. I have, for a fat man, I can move quick when I need to.
Yeah, mate. And you know what? If you can hit that solid where the crowd goes, ooh, then, mate, why can't that be a finish?
Absolutely. But speaking of finishing people off, you like kind of just ripping and tearing at opponents. You like that heavyweight style, which we've established. So what's the actual story behind the actual nickname of being the Ripper?
Look, there's nothing a lot really behind it. So when I got the itch, I took some time off from pro wrestling. I do a couple of appearances here and there, and the last few years I've really caught the itch to come back. And I'm really grateful to the guys at Australian Wrestling Superstars who've opened the doors for me, let me come in and do what I do. So I was thinking about things about what coming back to wrestling for a while, and I was just kind of putting things together to see what would kind of sound good. And just the Ripper, Ethan Hughz, just kind of, I thought worked really well. Yeah, and that's kind of just where it went. There was nothing really over the top about it. Sorry to burst the bubble on that.
But I can get that because like literally we started this conversation with you saying Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Greg the Hammer Valentine, like the Ripper. Like it's
well, that's it. And let's be honest. When you think the Ripper, the first thing that comes to your mind is Jack the Ripper.
Literally, when I was writing this question down, I was like, in my head, was like half expecting you to say that there was Jack the Ripper in this moment. I was like, Jesus.
Jack the Ripper was in my mind because when I spoke to the management at AWS and asked if they hit me up and said, would you be keen to do a couple of things? I said, yeah, no worries. And I went down to training a couple of times and they said, yeah, we're looking for a really mean heel. And I'm like, okay, no worries, I can do that. That's easy. And putting things together and going, well, what's mean, what's ugly, and in my mind just kept sticking Jack the Ripper. So yeah, I just kind of straight up stole that and became the Ripper, Ethan Hughz.
All right, well, switching gears a little bit. As I said at the start of the conversation, I first found you through Pierce's show, True Story, and then all of a sudden, as I said, you kind of, started popping up everywhere. But that makes sense if you were on hiatus and then you came back from hiatus. It's all coming together now. But how did you becoming a regular cast member, I guess, so to speak, for lack of a better term, on True Story? How did that come to be with yourself and Pierce and Torture and Akel and Coyote and a few others were rotating sort of thing? But how'd that all start?
Well, so Pierce had been doing his show for a while. And, mate, I'll tell you what, you've got to give the guy a lot of credit that he was getting a lot of attention interviewing wrestlers from around the world. It wasn't just wrestlers. Like, he was also getting in with some comedians, with a couple of other industry stars and all that sort of stuff as well. And, mate, he was making a bit of a name for himself. He started interviewing the Aussie wrestlers and it just kept going on. And he hit me up one day. He goes, you keen to do the show? I said, yeah, cool. Look, I'd never done a podcast. I said, look, if we could get a third person on, it'd be great. And he goes, oh, yeah, we'll get Akel on. So I'm like, all right, awesome. And then, things just kind of changed one day where we did the interview and it went really well. And one day we're doing who was it? Akel was doing I think it was Akel was doing a live. No, Akel and Pierce were doing a live, and they invited me into it on Instagram. And we would just go. Like the three of us were just chatting, and Akel goes, "Oh, let me get Torture into this as well." And I'd never met Torture before, but we just got on like a house on fire. We just had a lot of fun doing this one live. We thought, well, we had a lot of fun doing it here. Why don't we do it on the podcast once a week? So, and then it just turned into a bit of a rotating door. We'd start with just having three guys, and then it became four guys, and then we thought, we're starting to get a bit of momentum and starting getting a lot more people watching us. Let's make this the regular Thursday thing. And then, it just kind of snowballed from there, and, we've had a lot of fun and a lot of great memories. Like, I consider some of those boys some of my closest friends now. So that's the story of it.
So like, I've actually had Pierce on this show before, and Pierce was a big reason that kind of motivated me to kind of take this a bit more seriously. Like, obviously it is still a hobby, but look, kind of knuckling down and treating it like it's a job, even though it's not a job to an extent. Mm-hmm. Like Pierce was one of the main ones that kind of got me into that with just watching his content and seeing all the guests that he was having as you kind of just glossed through there yourself. But as we were talking earlier, like you guys legit become part of myself and Nova's. Like, you were like our Thursday night ritual. Like, we were talking about that right when we started this conversation at the beginning of the evening. Like, we just legit would put you on and chill and vibe, and it was a great way, like, even for us to just kind of escape reality and just have a fun time sort of thing. But have you at all, or any of the boys, thought about obviously, because saying when's the show going to come back would be more of a Pierce question, but have you or any of the boys ever thought about maybe branching out and continuing to do something similar?
Look, I'm not gonna say yes on that because it's not something that I think about going and starting my own podcast and all that sort of stuff. But I know we have been having a bit of a chat, and I don't know if it's been more jokes along the lines of, oh yeah, let's bring something back. But look, we've been having some chats about it. It'd be good. It was great for men, for our mental health as well. Like as men, we never get a chance to catch up with our mates as often as we should. And you look at the crew we had. So, Torch is in one corner of Sydney. I'm in the opposite corner from him. The opposite corner again, you've got Akel and Pierce not far from each other. Then you've got Coyote, who's in a completely different state to us. And then anyone else would kind of rotate in from there. And it's just good catching up with people. Like, we don't do it enough. We don't just chat enough as it is. And it kind of, don't get me wrong, I've got my friends that I talk to occasionally, but we don't talk to people in today's life as much as we probably should. And it was good having that once a week, catch up, chat to the boys. We'd get on maybe half hour before the show starts, have a bit of a yarn, and then you'd hang out for another hour and a half afterwards, just keep chatting and having fun and chilling, and then putting shit on Akel, which is always fun as well. And it just kept going and going, and it was just really good fun. And look, hopefully we can do something again soon. I think we were having a lot of fun with Tobias Hemmingsworth Jr. doing his skits every week, and
God, some of them got wild.
Me looking at some of that going, Jesus, if I don't get shot or cancelled, it's going to be a good day tomorrow. But it is what it is. It was just good fun. I consider all those guys some of my best mates now.
It's just crazy, the wonders of technology that, as you said, like, you guys are in different parts of Sydney, a few hours away. Coyote's, all the way up the other side of the country. I'm just outside of Wagga Wagga, and I'm like, we're all like just watching and chilling and vibing, but you're basically, it's almost like you're just sitting at the pub drinking, and sometimes Torture was sitting at the pub while live.
Sitting at the pub drinking. Especially when you'd catch him watching the footy in the middle of the show as well, which was always fun.
So with that, how did the whole fireball incident come to be?
I don't remember it, so we're not talking about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's it.
I actually said to Nova, like, I'm not much of a drinker anymore. Like, legit, at this point, I'm an old man. Like, I think you're only 8 years older than I am. So, like, there's not that much of an age gap. But I'm just like, I've entered old man territory. Like, I'll have 2 beers, maybe 3, and I'm ready for bed. Like, but I did say, if we ever meet Ethan Hughz / Sarge, I said I call dibs on doing fireball shots.
I have not been able to even look at a bottle of Fireball since. As I said, I don't remember a lot of that night. So, and I definitely woke up injured the next day as well. So,
it's not what you did.
I fell through a laundry basket and scratched and tore my whole back up. So it wasn't my finest moment, but it was a lot of fun. So anyway.
with that being said, before we get back into the wrestling, what's what you've obviously had some fun times with the boys and that. What's your best that you can tell on air, at least? What's your best story for either Akel or Torture or both?
Oh. I don't think I've really got anything on those, mate. Like with Akel, it was always like, I'll shoot straight. Akel's one of my best mates. We've gotten super close. He probably gets the shits with me a lot, but that's fine. I call the guy at least 2 or 3 times a week, and we have a bit of a chat and all that shit. And when he doesn't answer my call, I kind of think to myself, he must be busy having a wank. But it's fine. But the stuff we would do, and we've had some fun doing some tag stuff together as well, and doing the stuff with the True Units, and with a bit of stuff in rock and roll, a bit of stuff in AWS. But mate, the stuff we were doing with that Producer Wants a Wife was a lot of fun. Just a whole heap of different skits leading into it, and just having a ball shooting that. Mitch, no, Torture is just he's an enigma of himself. So like he's just there to have fun. He's not scared to take the piss out of himself. Like yeah, just a couple of top guys. Like Pierce as well, mate. Really good bloke, really good guy. I don't talk to him as much as like we're in the group chats every day having a chat, but we don't talk as much as we probably should. But yeah, like it's just mate, good bunch of guys just having fun together. I don't really have any like specific stories to tell, but.
Right, that's fair enough. But as we said, I really enjoyed that, and obviously it's out of your control whether or not it comes back. But I hope that eventually, Pierce does something of the sort again, because it was really nice to just, it didn't even have to be wrestling focused or anything. It was just a mad chat of just, as you said, just a bunch of dudes just hanging out, vibing with much needed downtime. And as we said at the start of our conversation, when as I said, I'll leave a tiny bit of that in when I edit this together with like the men's mental health stuff. Like it was just, it's good to sit down and just have a chat with your mates basically. But we'll move back to the wrestling stuff. This is the part of the show where we use the dirty word. We start to mark out a little bit at this portion of the show, Ethan Hughz. And with that, I'll say, you don't have to answer with one. You can give me a couple if you want. But what is your favourite match of all time, both that you've had personally and that you've seen? And when I say seen, it can be either television or live or whatever like that.
Oh, it's always a tough question. Like there's so many great matches I've watched, like both like locally and overseas, and there's some great talent. Like especially locally, there's so much good talent out there. Ones that stick out in my head are some of the best matches I've seen. Super Show 2, main event that night was Mark Mercedes versus Billy Cole versus Rob Matrix for the IWA heavyweight title, which was a great three-way match. Just told a really good story. And that same night, Lobo and Spike Steele just destroyed each other in what was a hectic ladder match. And just again, I don't mind hardcore wrestling. When it gets too bloody and gory for me, it's too much. They put on an amazing show. It wasn't too over the top, but it was enough. What else? Anything Bronson King does these days is great to watch as well. The guy is a machine and a magician in the ring. Doesn't get enough credit. He took. You look at what the guy does now, and you wouldn't think he's had 7 years off wrestling and just came back and like he hasn't skipped a beat.
He's in tremendous shape too. I saw I can't remember which promotion it was. I don't know if it was AWS or something. May have been AWS, but it was one of those areas. And I did this. They posted like the show results and stuff like that. And I just saw a picture of him, and he's jacked as fuck. I was just like, holy crap!
He's looking amazing. He looks amazing. Like, and he sets the bar of what we should all be looking like. Yeah, mate. And again, he's one of my mates that I've known for like 18 years now, 19 years, and he's mate, absolute gentleman, great guy to be in the ring with now. But he used to be one of my top rivals back in the day. Like when you look at wrestling, like the Captain versus the Sarge for years was just great. And then when we even did Bronson King and Ethan Hughz, like that was a lot of fun as well. Mate, the guy's in great condition. He really is what the benchmark should be for Aussie wrestlers.
There's a lot of people that when they talk about like the old, I don't want to say old, but like, some stuff from, back in the day, I guess, of Aussie wrestling, him as the captain, his gimmick comes up quite a lot amongst, people in central and rural New South Wales.
Yeah, well, mate, we when we got on the road and he started working for IWA and we went on the road together, and we'd work so many different age shows together. Like, honestly, like we'd go from Tenterfield out to all over the place. Like Tenterfield to Gosford to wherever. Like I think I've seen footage. There's a guy in Canberra that does something similar as well.
Yeah, Hugh Beauty at the moment is doing a kind of similar thing.
He's doing something like that. Moses, when he was Captain Keto, was doing something similar again as well, and it just works. It just, who would think cricket and wrestling wouldn't go hand in hand, but it just relates really well.
100%. So this is, again, this can be either fantasy or you can say it as realistic as you like. But who are some of your dream opponents, and what are your?
As I said, I just like wrestling. Don't get me wrong, I like the occasional hardcore match and all that sort of stuff, which is always fun when done right. I'd love to wrestle an 87 Tully Blanchard.
Sarge versus Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard.
Mate, that's stuff that'll never happen, but they're definitely in the dream vaults. Mate, I honestly don't know who else I'd want to wrestle. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll go out and give it my best to whoever books me and puts me in against whoever I get put up against. And
I can't remember who it was, because we've had, this is going to be episode 165, and out of those episodes we've had probably 60 or 70 different fucking guests. But someone said, I feel terrible for whoever it was, because I feel like a terrible host, but someone answered that question with my next one.
Yeah.
So, and you've kind of just answered in a similar way. Like I can understand that. I can get that. Like, you just want to go out there and
just go out and have fun. And like, I look at the last show I did for Pacifica Wrestling, which it's becoming one of my favorite places to wrestle. It's just got one of the best vibes and best atmospheres, especially backstage. It's got a great crew, great support. And mate, I wrestled Pretty Richie from the Philo Dojo in New Zealand, and we did a false count anywhere. And we took it around the entire venue, took it outside in the car park, and had a lot of fun telling a really good story with that.
That in itself has been a very popular answer, actually, the false count anywhere. Because like a lot of people, like the popular answer is usually like a ladder match or a cage match. But I've had a few people, and I think even maybe Torture said it as well, but they like the false count anywhere match because you can basically just do anything. Like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it's your story to tell basically, because it's an open book.
Yeah, that's it. And it just leaves you open for so much you can do as well. I'd love to work. I've never wrestled in a cage. I'd love to do that as well. And it's very high on my bucket list. Whether that happens or not is any given story, but yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
So before we get to the last official question, just, as you said, you took some time off and you're back, and you've been doing, more frequent bookings now than you have a little bit, in recent times. So with that being said, now that you're kind of back in the fold, doing the shows that you're doing in central New South Wales, what is your biggest goal for 2025?
I think biggest goal in 2025, finish the year strong. I just want to keep putting out some good matches, telling some good stories. Again, look, I'm never fussed who I get in the ring with. But yeah, I just want to be able to tell some good stories, put on some good matches, and just go out there and do what I have to and get the reaction I want at the end of it. Win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter, as long as you get that reaction and you accomplish what the job was. And that's something I take pride in doing, is going out and is sticking to my times, getting the reaction that's needed, and just giving them my all.
I can get behind that answer, absolutely.
Oh, that's it.
So before we get into all the plugs on that, we always end on a non-wrestling question. We try our best where we can to kind of tailor it to the individuals, kind of just basically have a little bit of fun. So with that being said, It's 2 a.m. in the morning. You get a phone call to say that Pierce Austin has been arrested. 1, would you bail him out? 2, what would you think he'd been arrested for?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I would bail him out. And I'm sure he's been arrested for like indecent exposure or something.
Why was I expecting that answer?
Well, why else do you get arrested at 2:00 in the morning?
Pierce will hear this and be like, what the fuck?
No, it's true.
With that being said, Sarge, though, where can we find you on socials? Do you have any merch, and what upcoming events will you be a part of?
No, look, I don't have any merch. But look, you can catch me at Australia Wrestling Superstars. They've got shows coming up. I wish I was smart enough and checked my dates. But Australia Wrestling Superstars running shows out of Mortdale and Mortdale RSL and the Ashfield Polish Club, which have been amazing shows, packing out 400 fans when we do Ashfield. It's been great. The vibe there is amazing. Management's amazing there too. You've got the Pacifica Wrestling Federation. Again, it's one of my favorite crews to work for. It's just the vibe backstage, the effort that goes into the shows is great. They run out of the King Tom Club in at Denver Park. Always fun. And Rock and Roll Wrestling, the best in the Illawarra. Running shows, Campbelltown. I know they've got a Goulburn show coming up soon as well.
Yes, I unfortunately, I was kind of annoyed when I saw the date because I can't make that one, but Goulburn's actually my hometown. So if everyone can get behind that and just go to the wrestling, and that way when I do stuff there, I know for a fact people show up, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's it. I've wrestled in Goulburn a few times. I think I wrestled for ICW there once in Goulburn. Going back many, many moons.
Actually, I think from memory, I think that may have been like the one ICW Goulburn show that I fucking missed too.
Yeah, I think it was the first one or the second one. But yeah, it's always fun going out in those towns as well. Especially, you've got the police academy there as well, and there's nothing for a lot of those guys that have got nothing to do on a Friday night. So it's always good getting a whole heap of law enforcement being on site for it. But yeah, mate, they're the main places you can see me. Some great crowds, some great people, mate, but support everybody. Like whatever you're into, just go check it out. Like wrestling, you can't get hot. Wrestling's at its hottest that it's been in 30 years.
I always use my mum as an example. Like she, for the longest time when I was watching, whether it was WWE, TNA, or old fucking ECW and WCW stuff, she'd always kind of watch it and go, yeah. She went to one live show in 2015, 2016. And now for the last, almost decade, she's just going to live wrestling whenever she gets to a chance. And I'm just like, where the fuck was this where I was a kid?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my parents used to come to the local shows. So when I started with IWA in 2005, there weren't many local shows. We were all over the place. We'd be touring. You'd never be within 2 hours of the last place you wrestled, unless you were going on a tour or something. But whenever we were local in Sydney, it'd be great. My parents used to love coming out and just watching me. But they were it's like parents coming to watch you play footy sort of thing. It's like, oh yeah, you did really well, mate. You did really well.
So I have a bittersweet moment with that because I've been on 2 shows in Goulburn. One, I was literally just a manager, and then I was part of a pull-apart brawl. But the only actual match I've had was a battle royal, and a lot of people say it was just a battle royal, but I've told the story. That was actually the last time I ever saw my dad smile or hear his voice before he had most of his tongue cut out, was me standing in the middle of a ring in Goulburn. So,
there you go.
can't beat that.
Like,
And first and only time my grandfather watched me wrestle as well, and he was on like fucking oxygen and everything. They put him in the corner so he could plug it in, and he was mad because I was like, you get your times. I was eliminated within 5-6 minutes of the battle royal. I get back to Nat and Pop's place, and he's like, "Why the fuck weren't you out there longer?" And I'm like, "Mate, I'm sorry, I'm a rookie. This is what I got."
I'm pretty certain. Again, this I don't know how deep this is getting. Like one of the last time my dad watched me wrestle. So my dad immigrated into Australia in 1952, right?
Okay.
So back then he used to go and watch wrestling at the Horden and the old White Stadium back in the day and all that jazz. So the last time was when we were doing the third season of IWA tapings. No, it wasn't. No, the second season of IWA tapings, and we had Mario Milano. We were doing a Hall of Fame thing for him. Dad came watch me wrestle that night, like three times that night, and then like he actually got a chance to meet Mario at the end of it, which was really cool as well.
Fuck yeah,
yeah. So like, and again, that's another like seeing Mario Milano like within a foot of me. Like he was such a big human, and like you never notice that on TV. But like he was, like I'm 6 foot. He had to be at least 6'3", 6'4". Like again, he was an old man when I met him, but you could tell with like just shaking the guy's hand, like big hands. Like it was a different era back then. Even chatting with guys like Ken Dunlop, and like what being on the road used to be like for those guys in a different state. Almost every day, like it brings a real different appreciation to pro wrestling.
110%. That's a really cool story to end this on. I think appreciate you coming on here tonight, and I've had a handful of technical difficulties, but I think we managed to pull through, get a good little hour out of this, and it's been a good distraction just from my everyday life at the moment as well, because I just lost my grandfather last week, so I appreciate you coming on. And 2 weeks ago actually, we buried him just this last week, but
I remember that. I flicked you a message after that.
Yeah, I'm still just trying to take it one day at a time. But this genuinely, like having this distraction just for a little bit, has been greatly appreciated. Nova did say to apologise that she couldn't come on, but obviously we discussed before we got on air why she's not on. You're obviously very aware of why she's not on here as well. But no, I appreciate you coming on and having a good chat. And I've learnt quite a lot about the Aussie wrestling scene just in this short hour, which is always what you want.
Oh mate, it's good fun chatting about some. It makes me feel old, like dumb saying it, but some of the older times, like the different times. Let's say that different times. Different times.
I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. But I thank you so much, Sarge, the Ripper, Ethan Hughz, whatever you want to be called nowadays. Appreciate you coming on tonight, brother, and I hope you have a great night.
No worries. Thank you very much, John.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, that was Sarge Ethan Hughz. And I'm kind of annoyed, though, with my intro at the start of that episode, because usually my Fink impression, and a few of you have heard it, my Fink impression is usually much better than that, but I've currently got a bit of a sore throat. No, it's usually a bit better than that. I don't know why. I wasn't very happy with that, if I'm honest, but that's okay. I think I actually got a bit too close to the microphone as well, because it sounded a little bit muffled, but at the same time, it was good enough to be put on this podcast, I feel. And I just thank you, Sarge/Ethan Hughz, for coming on again. And it was just a much-needed distraction. And I'm not going to sit here and get emotional like I did on last week's episode in the outro. But as Sarge said, and I said to him in the conversation, I'm like, hey, I'm going to leave that little bit in. And, he was cool with that. But, the champagne bottle, you shake it, eventually it's going to pop. So eventually, you need to let your emotions out. And this was just getting this kick back and talk to Sarge and just talk about wrestling and, have that little bit here and there where we talked about that mental health, both at the start and, near the end when we were talking about, or I think it was like about midway through when we were talking about the True Story Thursdays and just how much fun that was for Ethan. But No, it really needed. Very, very much needed and very much appreciated. And I just want to apologise once again. Not only again, you guys know me, I'm a crack record. I thank our guests 1,001 fucking times. This time I'm going to apologise 1,001 times because I'm just really annoyed with those couple of little divots there. Knock on wood, I haven't had any issues in this intro/outro. Everything's up to date on my app, so I just don't know why that happened. I genuinely don't know what happened. But yeah, thank you to Sarge for coming on regardless. And if you guys managed to make it through the conversation, even with those couple of little hiccups, I could edit that out, but you know what? I'm not gonna. I do appreciate it, and let me know what you thought about the episode. Let me know what your favourite part of the episode was, and just all the stuff and things and titty sprinkles, right? But of course, go follow Sarge. His link for his Instagram page will be below, and as he said, he can be found at AWS, Rock and Roll, Pacifica, all around New South Wales really, but especially the Sydney area. But yeah, that's all there. But Sarge's Instagram will of course be linked below. Of course, mine and Nova Lee's link trees are below. Yet another week where I go, oh man, I need to make a link tree for the podcast, and I've been saying that for 3 or 4 months now, and I still haven't fucking done it. But mine and Nova's link trees are still there. It's all there. The socials, the Instagram for myself, the Instagram for Nova, the Patreon, the Amazon wishlist, the pro wrestling tees, the GoFundMe, if you're so inclined, is all still there. I am trying to still get the Facebook page for Caught in Conversation, or it's facebook.com/@CICpod, but it's linked as well. We're still trying to get that to 500 followers so we can do our giveaway of the signed Edge plaque and the piece of the SmackDown ring skirt from 2002-2008. But also, I just announced on my own socials, crossfire_graphics on Instagram, I'm at 237 or 238 followers as I speak. I was just under 300. I was about 280, 290. But I went through and I culled a whole bunch of bot accounts and burner accounts. And yes, I know who runs a handful of those burner accounts. You weren't fooling anybody. So yeah, I've culled it down. It's about 230 something. It could even be at 240 by the time this episode goes out. But I am doing, when I get to 300 followers on my Crossfire Graphics page, I will be doing a giveaway, and again, it'll be one of those spinny wheel things again. And because it's graphics, it can be anyone. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be here in Australia, or you can be in one of the other 14 countries that listen to this podcast, which still blows my fucking mind. But once I get to 300 followers on Crossfire Graphics, Crossfire_graphics on Instagram, it's linked below. If you click the link, you won't butcher it like I will. I'm doing a free 8x10 of either yourself or your favourite wrestler. I mean, it could even be like your favourite singer or something if you really wanted it to. But yeah, free 8x10. Usually my 8x10s are valued at $40 Australian, which I feel is a pretty decent rate considering the time and effort that goes into them. And then, y'all pay $2 to get them printed out and then sell them for 10, if not 15, if they're signed. So it's a pretty good deal in my opinion. But yeah, I'm doing that little giveaway. It's there. Of course, the Patreon, if you subscribe for as low as $5 dues, as Nova likes to say, she's actually in the next room right now, you get early access and you can listen to all of these episodes early. Tier 2 at $10 Australian. No, see, the Nova's in the kitchen now. My fridge is beeping. There you go. No, run in by Nova Lee. Yeah, $5 dues for the early access tier. And with the $10 tier, you get instant access to the digital copy of my first children's book. I've just, with health and everything, I haven't had a chance. I keep saying I want to finish these ones because obviously it's the first of 3 books in a mini-series, and I want to get them done because my goal for this year is to publish my first full-length children's book. But if I can at least get these 3 mini-series books published by the end of this year, and then that way I can go to doing physical ones for them with Amazon, because I want to wait until I've got all 3 done before I do physical copies. And I am still going to do those audio versions eventually also. But yeah, immediate access to the first one, Alphabet Smackdown. I've had so much good feedback from both the target audience, which is children, helping them teach the alphabet while learning some cool animal facts in a roundabout wrestling way because my ADHD brain combined everything and somehow made it work. But even the older siblings and the parents and the uncles and aunts, I've had so many people give me genuinely great feedback, and I genuinely do appreciate that. But yeah, $10 for that. The $15 tier, you get access to the video footage of our watch-alongs, and you also get the option to pick topics for our episodes, whether that be me and Nova doing a watch-along of something that we're yet to do a watch-along of, or doing a top 10, or, watching or reviewing, something. It's all there. It's up, as long as it revolves around wrestling or pop culture. Of course, it has to be pop culture stuff that we're kind of interested in, but it's all going to be there. Eventually, I am going to be doing a watch-along of the horror version of The Grinch. I'm going to be doing a reaction, watch-along of, the Winnie the Pooh ones as well. But yeah, there's just all this stuff there that for $15 you can get. And of course, $20, you get a shout out in the intro and the outro. And if we get enough $20 subscribers, we will start doing some giveaways exclusive to them. Because as I said, I do have some wrestling memorabilia that, I could sell, and I'm sure there's someone out there that would take it. But I've got stuff that's worth $150, $200, right? So if we get 5 or 6 people paying $20, it's going to be, a little bit cheaper for you guys, but I still do get some funds and we can have some fun with it. And as always, I just really want to do more of those spin wheel things. The amount of decisions that Nova and I have made literally just at home, you using the spin wheel thing on Facebook is...
Late night movie, what?
Yeah, it's a thing, and I just want to do more of them. But yeah, it's all there. But moving on to the actual links, because this is getting long-winded, as it always is without Nova here to kind of, rein me in. She's just...
Wrap it up.
Yeah, get the shock collar out. But Australian Wrestling Superstars live at Ashfield, June 14th. The link will be below. Sarge will probably be at that show. But as he said, just check out AWS, Rock and Roll, and Pacifica. But that was the first one that I could see coming up post this episode. So I thought I'd link it below, and you guys in the New South Wales, Sydney region, go check that out. We fast forward to July 19th for Extreme Capital Wrestling. Neither myself nor Nova will be there for obvious reasons, but please still go support Extreme Capital Wrestling. Guilty Verdict, Jackson Thornhill in ECW's first one-fall fatal four-way match. Jackson Thornhill has to defend against Zack Stryker, Ace Shack, and Jake Gibson in his very first title defense. Granted, the little bits of rocky relationships that Jackson's had with both myself and Nova recently, there is part of me that think that's kind of karma that he's got that much pressure on him, but that's neither here nor there. He is still a member of Rogue, and I'm still very proud of him. But yeah, the link to that will be below. And then, of course, the Emma Butler Memorial Show. As I record this intro on Thursday, the 29th of May. Happy birthday, Mama Crossfire, by the way. As I record this, there is 44 tickets remaining to the Emma Butler Memorial Show. We've ranted about that many times. We have 15 Radiation Kick shirts on hand here at the compound still, 4 medium, 4 large, 7 extra large. Of course, $30 each, $10 for each shirt goes to the Emma charity. You can pre-order to pick them up at that show, or you can order them $10 extra. I'll post one. But yeah, all the links, all the wrestling, all the stuff, all the things. Once again, before I just quickly recap the song and match of the week, I do just want to apologise to both you guys and Sarge again for the technical issues. Because again, I've had nothing in this intro and outro. I don't know how or why it happened. And as I said in the intro, 165 episodes, I've never had anything like that happen. I guess it's just technology. Sometimes technology fucking owns us and needs to remind us every now and again that we're its bitch, basically. But the song of the week was Jack the Ripper by LL Cool J, of course. The Ripper, Ethan Hughz, kind of made sense to me. And it's a banger. Make a great theme song or a promo song or whatever. It's just a good vibe. And the match of the week, Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Andre the Giant, June 4th, 1988, which is crazy because as this episode goes out, it will actually be coming up on the anniversary of that match, and it wasn't even intentional. It was just, I was looking for hacksaw matches based on the conversation we had here with Hughz, And yeah, this popped up. But I'm going to wrap this up. Nova Lee, we're just on an hour and 20, so that's still pretty good, Nova. I'm still doing good. Is there anything you'd like to add, Miss Nova Lee, since you've done a run in here before I wrap this up? Well, okay. With that being said, I am the essential John L. Crossfire.
I am Nova Lee.
You guys were just caught
In conversation.
Shakalaka.
And titty sprinkles since you stole my shakalaka laka.